Okay, beautiful. All right, well, thanks everyone for being here. So happy to see some of our new faces on the screen today. So we're here today with Kim Freeman. Kim is currently serving as the Elder Abuse Program Coordinator at Unity House in Troy. She's worked for over 15 years as an investigator and a special police officer, and then spent 2 years on a brand new domestic violence grant in the most rural section of Eastern Kentucky, and served for 1 year as president of the Tri-County Elder Abuse Committee. So she has lots of wonderful experience I didn't even realize to share with us. And we're excited to have her here. And thank you, Kim, for taking the time to teach us. You know, we're in our clients' homes. We know that older adults are a vulnerable population, and we want to be able to support them and be keeping an eye out for things that we might need to do something about or get some help about. So go ahead and take it away, Kim.
All right. All right, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes, but now we do see presenter mode. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. All right, let me go back. Thought I had it figured out. Do you see? Oh, hold on. I apologize, you guys.
You're totally fine.
Give me just a minute here. Now it's, of course, it's all gone.
Yeah. That's how it happens.
It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Always.
All right, you're going to see everything for a moment here. Now, can you see that?
We're good. Just the slides now.
But I haven't transitioned, so here I go.
Okay.
Just the slide still? Nothing's changed?
Yep.
Fantastic. All right. So welcome, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. It's good to know that there are so many people out there that really care about, of course, our elders and the vulnerable population. And it's just nice to be able to share this information across all the different organizations that we have. So I think hopefully with enough knowledge and enough caring, we can actually try to make a difference in their lives. So this training, I just want you to know, I have taken it directly from a program the grant that I am getting my technical assistance from. It is a law enforcement, specifically a law enforcement training program for first responders. Ways to teach our police or emergency responders to look for evidence of abuse and teach them a little bit about what it looks like and what some of the red flags are that might be when you're in the house. So I've specifically taken it from their training, the modules that we are actually having in particular in Troy. All the police officers in Troy are taking this training. And I took excerpts that I thought would be valuable to anybody that does a home visit. So just kind of some things to keep your eyes open for, many of which I'm sure you've all seen, but it's nice to just kind of put it in context and just go from there. So that's our, of course, required notification that it is created by the National Clearinghouse on Abuse in Later Life based on a grant by OVW, which is who I work under. So thank you very much. Let's see here. I have to do this. Only 1 in 24 cases of elder abuse will ever be reported. It's a very silent problem. So, and it's estimated by the year of 2030 1 in 5 adults will be older, vulnerable adults. And it's shown that vulnerable adults that have a disability or any diminished capacity whatsoever are 2/3 more likely to be abused. And that between 1/3 and 2/3 of all the elders that have dementia were or have been abused by a caregiver. So that's a really significant number. The problem is it's embarrassing for them. This is somebody they love and trust. And it's hard for them to talk about. If they were betrayed by someone they love and trust, how are they going to trust a stranger that comes to visit their home? How are they going to ever feel comfortable talking to you? It's not something that they are comfortable talking about. And so building rapport with them is the most important thing. And if you're someone who goes into their home on more than one occasion, you're in a really good position to earn their faith and maybe convince them that you're not going to betray them, but only want to help. So some of the definitions, mostly the Elder Justice Roadmap is something that many of the states have gone off of, including New York State. Abuse, neglect, abandonment, financial exploitation of an older individual by anybody that has trust, not just an individual, but it could be an organization so much. It could be, there's a whole chapter on who can be the abuser, but let me put it in a nutshell, anybody. It could be an attorney. It could be the guy that mows the lawn. It could be a grandchild, a spouse, a stranger. It could be anybody. So we can't jump to conclusions based on any interactions that an elder has with anybody. So it's the most, and it's co-occurring. Oftentimes we see things happening with people that might not cross the threshold of doing anything. It might kind of make you worried, but you can't really do anything about it. That middle of the road that we all feel. It's important to keep in mind that these are often co-occurring. And if you see one thing happening, for example, maybe they're being emotionally harmed somehow, but it's not anything you could really prove, or maybe they're not being taken care of well enough, but maybe it's not bad enough to the point of doing anything about. There may be other things going on that are not as visible to you, like the financial exploitation or the sexual exploitation, things that you don't see. But it's important to understand that if there's one, there's very often something else. And it would take just asking a couple of questions to maybe look into that. Emotional is willful infliction of mental or emotional anguish by threat, humiliation, intimidation, or other abusive conduct. It includes isolating them or just frightening them. That's emotional abuse. Active neglect is the willful failure by a caregiver to fulfill the caretaking functions. But there's also passive neglect as well. Again, also considered abuse, and it should be addressed, and they don't have to put up with that. So deprivation of food, water, heat, clean clothing, even eyeglasses or dentures, keeping those out of reach by someone is a threatening form. It's an intimidation. So we really want to be sensitive to the different types of interactions that they have and the different ways that their way of life can be impacted. So these are some of the things that we want to look for. But more specifically, these are victim indicators, things that you may want to look at when you're visiting, even if it's in a brief moment. Unexplained changes of behavior, obviously. I mean, we all know this. She's not her normal self. Or he's behaving really oddly. He's never been like this before. Oftentimes, it's because something is in their mind, and it's how they're reacting to that, and not necessarily to you. So, fear of speaking in the presence of the offender. This is a really big one, because many, many times, especially our seniors who need to be cared for by someone, that someone is always with them all the time. And they're not going to ever say or even hint to you that anything is wrong. For one, of course, they don't want to lose their family member, their caregiver, and they don't know what will happen to them if they do. But the other thing is,
there she goes. She fell down. Why don't you call?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Finding a way, and if there's nothing wrong, it's easy to say to the caregiver, do you mind if I speak to her alone for just a few minutes? And normally, if there's nothing wrong, they're going to just say, fine. Oh, absolutely. Just call me if you need me. Or you may get excuses like, oh, she's not feeling really well. I really think I should stay here. She's not going to make any sense to you. She's really been crazy lately. Those are reasons why somebody wouldn't want to leave them alone. Or she's going to be too afraid if I leave the room. Those are warning signs. It doesn't mean there's something wrong, but they're warning signs. So signs of isolation, isolation from neighbors, others, anyone other than the abuser. Phone, do they have access to a phone? Can they call somebody if they want to? Do people come and visit freely, or are there? I had a case in Kentucky where a family member was only allowed to have family visitors during a certain day of the month. It was the oddest thing, but family members couldn't come and visit grandmother freely. And it turned out because he was really taking advantage of her and her money and not treating her well, and he needed to make sure that she had limited access to outsiders. So signs of being over or under medicated, that is considered a restraint. Chemical restraints, how people will over medicate to keep them from being able to move or get up or talk, or keep them drowsy or under submission. So, or lack of medication, the medication that they need in order to feel better, in order to be able to get up. I'm not going to give it to you. I need you to stay in bed. I don't have time to deal with this, that type of thing. So medication is important, making sure that they're getting their medication on time, looking at their prescription bottles and asking them if they have any problems with that. Things that get expired and the caregiver hasn't had time to refill it. Those are abusive issues that should be addressed. And again, signs that we may be looking for other things as well. Of course, poor hygiene. This is really important, making sure that they're taking care of themselves and keeping clean and keeping their bedding clean and their clothing clean, and that there aren't those types of issues. Signs of restraints, ligature marks on their wrists or their ankles, oftentimes sad, being tied to a wheelchair so they won't get up. People will use that as an excuse. Oh, she'll hurt herself. I have to tie her to the chair. That is happening way more than it ever should. And it's devastating to them. So, or even how about locks on the interiors doors? How they can get locked into a room and not let out. Again, these are definitely things that sometimes we don't think about looking for, but looking to those locks on insides of doors. Lack of important personal possessions, things like cash and credit cards, of course, having access to those, but the mementos and pictures. This is a threatening behavior, taking away the things that somebody really cares about, not giving them the freedom to look at them and have them close at hand. And even if somebody needs like assisted devices, like a walker, is it kept close enough that they can access it, or is it kept out of reach? And same with wheelchairs or just giving them that little bit of freedom that they have, making sure that they have access to it when they need it. And of course, infections, pain, bleeding, dehydration, suspicious bruising, injuries, bruising in particular. Of course, some make sense, on the shin bones or falling on the forearm, but other injuries don't make sense. In particular, any bruising on the left side of the face. Like someone falls and they have a black eye. Oh yeah, they have, but they have no other bruises from the fall, nothing from their hips or their hands or things that would corroborate that kind of a story. So in particular, left side of the face, because most people are right-handed. So if they hit somebody with their right hand, the left side, the left eye, the left ear, injuries in those places are really suspicious. Injuries on the upper arm is very suspicious. Whereas, on the hands or on the shins, it's more explainable. So kind of combining those things. If there's an injury here, does the story make sense type thing? So Suspect indicators, these are indicators or behaviors by the person who may be the offender. Conflicting or unlikely explanations about an older adult's condition. Of course, making a story that, well, it's the same way as child abuse. You know, when we ask about an injury that somebody receives, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. You know, and it's easy to say that doesn't make sense, but you know, I wasn't here. What else am I supposed to do about it? But document it, because pattern matters. Multiple visits can build something in the future that means nothing to you today. Signs of isolation, control, or domination. Again, going back to the same indicators before, having access to reaching out to family or friends, or having visitors, calling people on the phone, maybe access to a computer, FaceTime. Do they get to see or visit with their, you know, grandchildren regularly? Finding out how those visits go. How often do they happen? You know, and a caregiver who often portrays themselves as a victim. I met somebody like this only a few weeks ago. They're the only caring person in the older adult's life. They justify how hard their life is, and how hard this is for them, and they never asked to be in this position. Oftentimes you may not see anything else going on, but if you hear words like that, sometimes there is something going on in the back of the caregiver's head. They know that they're doing something wrong, and they're sort of laying the stage to make explanations about why something may be discovered. So, and that may be opening the door to look further and to ask more questions. So, and they may be quite the opposite, maybe overly charming, overly helpful for any visiting professionals or law enforcement during, you know, they hover during a visit. You can't look at anything or talk to anybody or touch anything unless they're right there looking. You know, what are you looking at? What are you doing? You know, what are you asking them? Why are you asking them that? But I'll get you any, do you want some coffee? You want some tea? You know, so again, none of these things by themselves mean anything's wrong. But sometimes you have to have it in the back of your mind that maybe it means something there is wrong. So, and the environmental indicators. The strong odor of urine or feces in the air sometimes means it hasn't been cleaned up regularly or often enough. That it tends to linger until just before your visit. Lack of food in the cabinets, in the refrigerator. Oh, I haven't been shopping. Well, how often does that happen? You know, is it empty all the time? Again, locks on the outside of interior doors, physical damage to a home that may have been caused by abusive behavior, a temper, room temperature, air quality. Is it heavy? Is it, you know, suffocating? Are windows open or closed? Is it dark? Is it cold? Again, document these whenever you visit. It may seem insignificant at the time, but if we have to look back at it in 4 months or 6 months and say it was like that all the time, it can show a pattern of neglect or a pattern of intimidation. So, and even asking them about that when they're there, you know, are you warm enough all the time? Does it get cold often? You know, it may flag something for you. And lack of access, again, to devices, water, personal items, you know, just looking around the room to see those types of things would maybe spur a question or two or a conversation. So community support, specialty and problem-solving courts, IDV, personal domestic violence courts. We actually have specific judges now in the courts that are specifically trained to deal with elders, people over the age of 50. The courts are actually addressing issues too, as far as accessibility, making sure that they're wheelchair accessible, making sure that there are visual cues in case there's lacking eyesight issues, making sure that they have help with large print, you know, if they need large print, or that they help or have assistance filling out documents or filing claims or having interviews done. In fact, oftentimes when cases are being investigated, it is suggested that more than one agency be at the interview, not as a form of, you know, we don't want to scare them or intimidate them, but we don't want them to have to tell their story 12 times. Right? So you can have APS there with a police officer and a district attorney, maybe, and try to make it as casual, as comfortable as possible, but one interview so that everybody can get their information at the same time, keeping times as short as possible, making sure they don't have to leave their home more often than needed, making sure that they're as comfortable as they can. There's hearing aid devices. There's, like I said, visual assistance. Even some courts now are providing large screens so that they can see what's happening more easily. Some even are now automated gates in some of the courtrooms where wheelchairs can go in and out and nobody has to move anything. So there's a lot of new movement going forward as far as accessibility and making sure that the courts are helpful for our seniors. It's not in every community yet, but it is something to look forward to. And actually, we can provide input if we ever see something like that happening. So, so a lot of the other problems, like adult APS, obviously is the #1 go-to that people feel that if there is elder abuse, that they report to APS. APS can't do everything, but they do try to go visit and do the investigation. And I know that they work closely with the Department of Health, and I know that they work with Department of Aging, and they coordinate, food deliveries and interviews and case information and services. Like I said before, an elder that's being abused is oftentimes distraught that the person that they love and care for would be doing this to them. And if someone were to come to the door and say, I'm here to help you, I know you don't know me, but I want to help you. That's hard for them because the one person that they trusted most betrayed them. So how are they supposed to trust you? So it's really important that they have a rapport, but it sometimes takes time for them to feel like there is a way out. Misinformation is that if we investigate you, we're going to take you out of your home. If we find that there's abuse, we're going to take that person away. And they still, despite the damage, they love that person, right? They love whoever it is that may be harming them. And it feels like it's 100% of the time, they feel so much guilt that this caregiver has to take care of them. And they don't want to make things harder on them. They want to make it easy. They don't want to turn them in. They don't want to harm them. They want to understand them and support them by taking it. And there is no other way out, because if I report them, they're going to get in trouble. They're going to lose their job. They're going to lose me. I'm going to lose my house. So I guess the most important thing is to say that doesn't have to happen. There are alternatives. And until we say that, they don't know that. So what we offer here, I mean, we have at Unity House a lot of programs too, and as Equinox in Albany. And also there are EMDTs, Enhanced Multidisciplinary Teams, and CCR, which is a community collaborative organization, which is what I run here, is a CCR. So Unity House and Equinox, we offer all sorts of different programs. And I'm going to go over what we offer in just a minute. But the CCR teams in each community discuss non-case specific system improvements. And we work really hard at talking about how cases were handled. Like, where did they fall through the cracks, or where was it too hard to get past? What obstacles presented that made our job harder, right? If only we could just do this, we could have helped them. Or if only that organization could have been able to step in, we could have helped them. Or, so our CCR is comprised of our court, our police department, mental health, Department of Aging, and anybody else who deals with seniors in our community that has input, that we can talk about our systems and how our systems help and how our systems could be improved. And how do we do warm handoffs and support each other and all come together and try to make sure that when these cases are presented, that they're handled expeditiously and trauma informed, not making it harder on them. The worst thing for someone who has a problem is, you need to go to this interview, you need to go do this evaluation and that assessment, and fill out these forms and come to this hearing. How hard is that? Nobody wants to jump through hoops. Nobody wants to be treated like they're, our systems can sometimes re-victimize a victim. So how do we fix it so that doesn't happen? So they're actually getting help. So that's what our CCRs do. On the flip side, our EMDTs, they are case specific. So if there is a case of elder abuse where someone is being abused, and it's been brought to the attention of any one of these organizations, they can bring it to the EMDT. And then we are a group of specific, like advocates, mental health, a judge, or a prosecutor. We have right off the top of my, a geriatric psychologist or psychiatrist, a fiscal, a forensic accountant there for financial, just on the top of my head. We have a forensic accountant specifically designed for financial abuse, for people who are taken care of by strangers or by family, through embezzlement, through guardianships, through power of attorney issues, through undue influence, intimidating someone into feeling like they need to give money. So we have the EMDT will talk about the specifics of an elder abuse case, and we'll talk about how therapy might help, or what kind of research papers can we do, or how can we help them with housing. So all these different organizations can come together, and we can come up with a plan where everybody has a role to try to help this person as quickly and as fluidly as possible. So it's an amazing team. And if you think that you would like to be on that team, they would love to have you. There is an EMDT in Albany. There's one in Rensselaer. There's one in Schenectady. Every county has one. And any professional from any of these organizations can recommend a case to be heard by the EMDT. And they can specifically, obviously it's very confidential. There's no specific identification as far as names and such, unless there has to be a release, obviously, but we all sign confidentialities in order to be able to discuss. And they are looking for more members from more professions with more perspectives to be on those teams. So if you're interested in that, please let me know, and I can put you in touch with the coordinator for the EMDTs in the Capital Region. And let's see, Unity House. So like Equinox and Unity House, we're very similar in the services we offer, but what I think is really amazing is the therapy. We actually have 7 therapists here. We have one that's dedicated for children that are exposed to domestic violence. We have one that's dedicated to veterans. An elder who's been a veteran has different issues, different things that they think that people don't understand because you haven't been what they've been through. And elder abuse can cause post-traumatic stress. And somebody who's been a vet can understand what that is, combined with anything historically that they've dealt with. But there's a lot of ego and strength issues involved when you're a former military. And now you suddenly find yourself as a victim, like being treated this way. How can you allow somebody to treat you this way? So the therapy is amazing. Rapid rehousing. We have lots of programs specifically designed to help people get into a different home. So sometimes it's assisted living for seniors, or there's just lots of different ways that we can do that. We have a lot of money that helps people with like down payments, first month's rent. We can do food services, money for heat. So we have lots of money programs available for people that are in these types of situations that need help. We have free legal services, everything from real estate to custody to power of attorney issues to divorce, all sorts of programs like that we can offer anybody that's a victim of domestic violence. Case management, somebody who can be attached to this person long-term to visit with them on a regular basis, making sure that they're getting all the things that they need. Animals, by the way, I haven't mentioned, anybody who has an animal, sometimes animals prevent people from wanting to get help or leave or do anything. We have programs that will take those animals in, or whether temporary or long-term, but we'll make sure that those animals are safe and cared for. So that's never, ever should be a reason that someone doesn't seek help. We have a police liaison. We have a specific dedicated detective and police officer that are only follow up on domestic violence cases. They are the ones that get all the reports. They are the ones that are specifically trained and go into these homes and talk. And they know what the laws are. They know what can be prosecuted, and they know what kind of evidence is needed. They know exactly if we wanted to go forward, how. Court advocacy.
Again, we go with them to court. We explain to them what's happening. We answer their questions and kind of give them some expectations about what their choices are. And this is all in their hands. Nobody takes anything away from them. This is all in their hands. Even diminished capacity, even people with dementia can help. I mean, we all know about sundown. Sometimes people are a lot sharper in the morning. We can make sure and arrange those things to happen in the mornings when they're better off. And just because someone has dementia does not make them incapable of providing solid testimony that can be utilized. And police officers that are trained know this. So we have shelter. We can provide temporary shelter in case of an emergency, and they're handicap accessible. So if there are movement issues, they can all be utilized. We offer transportation to and from court, hearings, doctor's appointments, and if can, food assistance. We do provide food assistance where needed. So, and it's not, and Equinox would provide all of these same things. So even if someone doesn't want to report directly to APS, they can report to any domestic violence advocacy program. And our specialty is trying to get all the services that they can do things to help that maybe we can't. So getting everybody together on the same page and working together. So, all right. So if you want additional, if you would like to take this law enforcement course, like I've given you just a teeny tiny little bit of the information that they teach law enforcement. If you wanted to do the whole thing, it would probably take you about 3.5 hours, maybe. There's 23 modules. Each module is 15 minutes, but they're really informative and really helpful. And so if you wanted to take the course for yourself, there is a certificate provided at the end. It is designed for patrol. The first 11 is just for patrolmen and first responders. And the second group is for investigators. And there's actually one module that is phenomenal when it comes to creating and building a case and report writing, gathering evidence that can be utilized in a case if it were ever to go forward without a victim. Too many times, accountants are never held accountable because their victim does not survive the process. And that's not fair. We need to be able to continue that, hold them accountable, even if they pass away or their dementia advances to a place where they can't participate. So the elder abuse law enforcement, elderabuseforlawenforcement.com/courses/elder/abuse. So, and if you have questions, my email is right there. My office phone number is right there, and it's a direct line to me. And if you don't get me, it's my voicemail. So that's pretty much what I have put together for you. I hope it was helpful. I really love what I do, but I love working with other organizations, and I love what you guys do, and I love it when we come together. So thank you for being here and listening to me.
Thank you, Kim. I think it was really helpful. I know I have a few questions, and I, of course, want to open it up to our team if they have questions too. One of the first things I wanted to say was actually a comment, well, a few comments. So one was, you mentioned, and I just want to clarify this for our crew because we do work with a lot of people with dementia. So you mentioned the locks on doors. And I'm thinking, I wonder if some of our care partners might be thinking, well, sometimes we see locks on our, on our clients' doors for a variety of reasons. So we do sometimes see locks on, doors to the outside when we're working with clients with dementia, and it's actually something, that I do recommend to people sometimes when someone is in danger of wandering outside or being outside alone. So I did want to clarify that for our team, that it's certainly something to look at if we see it and we're like, we don't know if there really needs to be locks there. But definitely something to bring up and have a conversation about, because we do sometimes see that as a way to help keep, our clients safe, that a family might put a lock on the top of the door and so that they can't open it without, assistance. So I wanted to clarify that.
And like I said, none of it is, it's not indicative that there is a problem.
but sometimes it's
You
a
look at
lock
the
on the
whole
bedroom
picture.
door, you
Right.
know? A lock on the bedroom door. Are they locked in there all day?
No,
Does
right,
anybody, you
that
know?
shouldn't be. Right, right,
So
right.
that's,
Yeah,
that's more about
thank
what
you.
that's focused on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. My other comment was, as we're talking, there's those of us in the office on this call, and then there's those of us, our care partners, who are out and about, working directly one-on-one with the clients. And, we talk a lot in our training and when we go over our boundaries, that our care partners are not to advocate for their clients. And I think some of the stuff we're hearing today is empowering us to be an advocate. So what I want to, which is good, but what I want to remind our care partners is that if they want to advocate for their clients, they should be advocating to us, so that as an agency, we can advocate for the client if we believe that there's something more going on. We don't want individual care partners to be taking that on and becoming an individual advocate for their client. So I want to clarify that as well, that we would want to support them as an agency, to have all those resources. And I always say in our orientation training that it's my job, to make sure, and Jeanette, it's our job to make sure we know about the resources in the community that can support our clients. And so, of course, our care partners are advocates for our clients to us, but not to the outside community until they talk to us about that. Because of course we want to be involved in that too. If we're looking at, helping a client to be safe, we want to all be a part of that and come together as a group too, and put our heads together and say, what do we think is going on and how can we help this person? And then I have a question for you. When you get a situation of abuse, where, and maybe this is like a bigger question than you can easily answer on this call, but where is the line between allowing that victim to continue to be a victim if that's what they choose, and saying it's not your choice, this goes further than you?
You're right, because that's the biggest challenge, is that oftentimes the victim says, I don't want you to do anything.
Mhm.
I'm fine. And that's their fear of what the consequences would be if they did do something.
Mhm.
So if they're 100% have the capacity to make that decision for themselves, that's hard, because one of the forms of abuse that can be addressed is self-neglect. Well, I mean, because we have elders who don't take care of themselves, right?
Mhm.
They're not capable of having the right sustenance or of a healthy or clean living environment. And there is a place in the laws that force mental health to do assessments to say they're not taking their care of themselves at the minimum, and we have to step in. But if capacity is, that's hard. That's definitely something that an EMDT, I think, would have to discuss, to talk about, because you can't force somebody to take help. But at the same time, the abuser, if he's breaking the law, if that's a crime that's being committed, it would be looking at the actions that are being taken and finding out if the courts can do something to the offender specifically without asking the victim to be a part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of confusion, especially in the state of New York, concerning mandated reporters. The only mandated reporters in the state of New York are healthcare workers and police when it comes to elders. If you're not a healthcare worker or a police officer, you're not a mandated reporter. So if somebody says, I don't want you to tell anyone, you don't have to. You can. I mean, APS wants anybody who suspects elder abuse to report it. And as well, they should. Somebody needs to be at least aware of it, because I think checking in on them and knowing about their condition and giving them a door to open when they're ready is really important. It's not, I mean, one of the things that I see that breaks my heart is when an elder says, I don't want to do anything about it. I have my wits about me. I understand my situation. And we say, okay, bye.
Mhm.
I don't think that should happen, because just because they feel that way today doesn't mean they're not going to feel that way tomorrow. And then tomorrow, nobody's going to be there.
Mm.
You know, so
Yeah.
just maintaining those connections, you may need 6 months or a year to build rapport with someone, even if they don't need you. That's all. But forcing someone to get help is the biggest challenge that we have. They are adults. They have rights. They can make their own decisions.
Yeah.
But it's just like domestic violence. A woman that is being abused and beaten by her husband will go back to him on average 8 times. We can't tell her not to. We can't say no. They have that right, and they must make that decision for themselves.
Yeah.
They have the capacity to do that. And elder abuse is no different.
Right.
They have the right to make that decision. Eventually, though, if it gets bad enough, they will come to us. They will ask for that help. And we just have to be there ready and let them know that we're here when they're ready.
Yeah.
But I hate to see somebody being abandoned because they say, I don't want any help.
Mm.
That's, for me, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah,
You've
you're welcome.
echoed like how I feel, you know, but we all know like there are those frustrating times when we just feel,
Right.
what can we do? We know what we want to do, you know, but
It's hard. I mean, I had a poor woman, she kept getting, she was hospitalized by her abuser. She kept going back. And I mean, it breaks your heart, but yeah.
thank you, Kim. Does
Yeah.
anyone else have questions for Kim?
I see a
Your
question.
comment in the chat.
Yeah.
I have a question or a comment
ahead, Cameron.
about the restrictions. A good one to look for is like barricades, like putting the wheelchair in front of the bed so that they can't get out of the bed or anything like that, or keep even locking the wheelchair, because if
Right.
they want to get out, it can tip backwards.
Mm,
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's
Right.
another good thing. Thank you, Cameron.
Yep.
Does anybody else have anything?
Hayden, we can't
Hayden?
we can't hear you.
I'm not sure why. It doesn't say that she's muted.
I know.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Going off what Jen was saying, how, like, do you educate the senior population about what abuse is? Because what if there's a situation where they don't recognize that it's abuse, and then you're trying to struggle to like convince them that they are being like mistreated? So like, how do you go about that? Do you educate them, or even like the people who are abusers? Like if it's small things that they're doing that would be considered abuse, or if it kept on happening, it would be a pattern. Like, how do you educate those people to recognize what they're doing or that they're being mistreated?
That's the biggest and best thing that we can do. And it is what I do. I actually do a lot of outreach and education. So I visit senior centers and elder populations, and I talk with as many seniors as I can. I go to we have a senior resident nearby, and I've been to them. They have these events in the summer outdoors, and I go and I just talk to them. And I don't ever present it as if you're being abused, because nobody will ever come right out and say that. But I say, if you know someone who may be facing this or facing that, you see a lot of head nodding, and they'll be like, oh, I do. And I'll say, this is what that means, or this is what we can do. And these are the different types of abuse. And you may think there's no help, but did you know that there was one financial exploitation where this man, this woman found out that he had some diminished capacity, but she said she loved him and wanted to marry him, and they joined bank accounts, and she bilked him out of all his money and took his house.
Mm.
And part of that was going with him to the bank to put her name on his account and all that sort of thing. He gave consent. Like he wasn't completely incapable of making decisions. He gave his consent. And so the concern was, you can't really do anything about it. He may, not quite be, his IQ was a little bit lower than we would hope, but he made those decisions. It turns out that he was able to be prosecuted. He was able to save, he got all his money back. It was prosecuted through a civil remedy where we actually held the bank accountable. They knew something was wrong and they didn't do anything. Right? So a lot of people won't pursue that type of, I was a fool, I'm embarrassed, I'm not going to tell you. What are you going to do anyways? I'm not going to be able to get it back. That's not true. There are always solutions, but we have to tell people that there are solutions. We have to tell people that you don't have to live with it. Just, you got to learn and ask questions. And so part of my job is to say, there's no such thing as can't do anything. So give us a chance to find out what the situation is and let's see if we can do something. So, and I do that with everything, emotional, financial, grandkids who steal your credit card. Someone, you gave them your PIN number because you asked them to go pick up bread and milk last month. And now all of a sudden they have your card and they're using it 2 states over. Is that your fault? You can't do anything? We can definitely do something. So a lot of times it's a guilt thing and they don't want to tell anybody because they feel like there's no solution. Educating seniors is the best thing that we can do. So.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah.
Moshi, did you have a question before? No. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Just checking my list to see if I have anything. I do not have any other questions, believe it or not.
I really appreciate
awesome.
I could go on and on and on for hours.
Yeah.
So.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, thank you so much. I think we learned a lot and I'll be sharing some of this with the rest of the team. And I wrote down a few things to kind of put out to the rest of the team who weren't able to be here. So thank you for everything. And I'll post this to our YouTube page and also put Kim's information on our Facebook group so everyone has that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Kim. Thanks everybody for coming. Have a good
Bye-bye.
Friday.
Thank you.
Bye.